Well, we've been doing our Beyond Sunday series, and just want to remind you how we kicked all this off at the beginning of the month. Is we kicked it off talking about how, Christianity is more than just Sunday morning service. Can you say amen to that?
Amen.
See, Christianity is a lifestyle. It is really about two things that Jesus commanded us to do. And if you remember, I shared them, and they are found in Matthew chapter 22, verses 34 to 40. And here's the scenario, just to bring us back to that point. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together, and one of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question. And this is the question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And what he was asking is, okay, out of the big 10, the 10 commandments, which are the greatest? And so Jesus took the 10 commandments and he summarized them into two. And listen to what Jesus said. It says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind. See, that is the number one thing we should do as Christians, is we need to love God. And when we look at that, what he said, that we need to love the Lord, you could say it's the number one thing, it's the big thing. Do this first and everything else will come along and be added to you, he says. It's the most important thing you could ever do with your life, is to love Jesus first. And he says, first of all, love him with your heart. The heart is considered the seat of our emotions. Now, I don't know about you, but do you remember your first love? Maybe you married your first love. I kind of married my first love. But do you remember how giddy you were and how you just had to spend time with them? And the most amazing time was when you could talk to them on the phone, or you could spend time with them. And there is all this emotion of love and wanting to be with him. Well, Jesus wants us to love God that way. See, we are to love God like we loved our first love. And we need to go back and remember those experiences and have those same feelings for God himself. And then secondly, he says we need to love the Lord our God with all of our soul. Now, I talked a lot about soul care the beginning of last year and how important it is for us to care for our soul. And our soul is the operating system of our life. Best way to explain it. It's like on a computer. It's like Windows that runs a computer, or the Mac system that runs the Mac. Everything kind of gets filtered through that system, and it controls everything about your life. Well, that's kind of what your soul does. It manages your emotions. It manages your feelings. It manages your choices. It manages your intellect, your actions, and even your value system. So we got to make sure we love God with our soul. Thirdly, with our mind. Our mind is our intellectual center. It's where we learn. It's where we process things. And this too, by the way, yes, your mind is to love God. How many know that's a challenge, right? To get your mind to love God? But we need to love God with our minds as well. And I don't know about you, but, most of you know I've been to school quite a bit, and I love studying, and I love learning. And for me, one of the things that feeds my heart, my spirit, my soul, is to read books and to learn more about God and to study theology and all that good stuff. But it's even more than that. It's the intellectual center, and it's to be rooted in the love of God. It's our reasoning. It's our rational center of our life, and we need to love God with that as well. And then in Deuteronomy chapter 6, Luke 10:27, and also in the Gospel of Mark, there's another phrase that's added when Jesus said this, and it's basically that we're to love God with all of our strength. Now that means all of our strength, our physical strength. It means our physical efforts, our physical dimension. We should love God with that as well. And so with that kind of laid out, that was the first truth he said. But the second truth is really what we've been talking about here with Beyond Sunday. And Jesus goes on to say, all right, here's the second way to summarize the 10 Commandments. You're to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, Christianity is more than Sunday morning service. We've established that. Christianity is more than just coming to church on a Sunday morning or a Saturday afternoon or whenever it is you come. Christianity is about loving our neighbor as ourselves. And I don't know about you, but, Tim and I were talking before service, and there's a whole lot of people that love to take selfies, right? Right? Some people take so many selfies, you're just like, what do you do? Just look at yourself all day and click, and then you're over here and click. See, we're supposed to love our neighbors like we love taking selfies. Amen? Everybody got that? And we're supposed to reach out to our neighbors and show our neighbors love and care. And you can ask the question, well, who are my neighbors? Because that was one of the questions we dealt with. And then Jesus shared the story of the Good Samaritan and how the Good Samaritan helped out the person who was in need. Well, our neighbors are those we come in contact with every single day, those we bump into and talk to daily. It's those that live on the right or left side of you, and here's my challenge to you. Do you know the name of your neighbors on your left and on your right and across the street? All right. Way to go, Rich. Man, way to go. So you're supposed to know your neighbors and reach out to your neighbors and be there and help them. So we need to be able to understand that's our neighbor. But, you know, your neighbors could be also those who ride with you on the train to downtown Chicago every day. Did you know they can be your neighbors too? And I know that Bendis talked about that they used to have parties on the train for birthdays and all that because, you know, it all becomes kind of a family riding on the train down to Chicago when you're all together all the time. And so they would do things like that on the train as well. It's those that you go to school with if you're in school. It's those that you work with all day long. It's those you meet in the stores and even serve you in the stores that are around you. All these people are your neighbors according to Scripture. If you really look into the Greek, all that is inscribed in what it means to love your neighbor. And so that's what we're doing with Beyond Sunday, finding ways to love each other, finding ways to encourage other people. And we need to learn the lesson from the Good Samaritan, which is we are to set aside any prejudice, we are to show love and compassion for others and help out anyone who is in need around us or who we come in contact with on a daily basis. Our neighbor is anyone we encounter, people we connect with on a daily basis. And the Lord has placed us here. One of your purposes, number one, love God. But number two, God has placed you here on this earth for a purpose, and that's to love your neighbors. And Beyond Sunday, like I said, it's not just Sunday morning service. It's not just coming out and doing some worship songs and some prayer time and some Bible reading and all that. It's more than that, and so that's what we're challenging you to do this next couple months as we look at Beyond Sunday. And so some of the ways that we have been talking about doing this is we talked to our village mayors, and we asked them how our church could better serve our community. And so the first person that I have this is an email from Mayor Kyle Hastings of Orland Hills. He sent me a letter. He said, you know, Pastor Mike, I regret to inform you I cannot make the meeting today. He's an educator, and they have a big educator thing this weekend that he had to be at, so he was unable to be here. But he took our questions that we sent him, and here are some of his responses to the questions that we sent him. Number one, what can the church as a whole do to help serve the village of Orland Hills? This is his response to that question. Christian Hills has served the village over the years as a spiritual leader for the entire southwest suburban area and has represented Orland Hills at the highest level with church services, activities, and a highly ranked school. The most that I could ask is that Christian Hills continues to serve the residents of the village and remain an active and stable pillar of the village. The village of Orland Hills will continue to provide municipal services and police protection to the church and to your school. And if you don't know this, the Orland Hills Police Department, throughout the school day, every 20 minutes, they circulate through our parking lot to keep us safe. Secondly, what are your goals and vision for Orland Hills? And we're asking that to Mayor Kyle there. He says, throughout the years, our goal has been to provide high-quality services, excellent programs, and an infrastructure improvements to the residents of the village. We are proud of the fact that we are a small residential community. Careful planning and completion of programs and projects have been achieved by listening to our residents and using common sense to achieve these goals. The village board and I are committed and determined to provide police protection, quality parks, and recreational opportunities and special events to enhance the quality of life in Orland Hills. Our third question. As citizens or residents of Orland Hills, what can we do to assist the city in your goals and visions to achieve them? And his response is this: our village goals are long-term, and the most valuable asset that we have in Orland Hills is people and their families. Christian Hills assists in moving our vision forward as you educate the children, who become residents of Orland Hills or already may be living in our town. Your church also provides a spiritual foundation for our families. That foundation begins at an early age and is a necessary component to maintaining a strong community. Remember I said that a long time ago? I said that the glue that holds our society together is our families. And it's our responsibility to invest in our families, because if we invest in our families, we make for strong community. If you go back and you look at some of the areas where there seems to be high crime and a lot of dissatisfaction and a lot of problems, the family unit has broken down over the years, and there's no strong, cohesive unit to hold and bond the people together. So we are definitely going to continue to make strong families. Next question, what is the biggest need of the city of Orland Hills, and how can we help you meet that need? He said here, communication is number one, the most important. We need to communicate and talk. He says, as I mentioned, careful listening and common sense guide our village in all matters. We rely on our residents and our institutional partners, which we are, to let us know how we are doing. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do to keep your church and school at a high level of satisfaction within our community. Only then can Orland Hills continue to add value for our residents' life experience with a leading community institution like Christian Hills Church and School. Next question. How do you envision a greater sense of community in Orland Hills? Church events, he says, are crucial, and activities as well as village programs and events create opportunities for the mix of residents who live in Orland Hills to come together to be entertained and to be served. As our town continues to grow in diversity, it is up to the village and our educational and religious institutions to lead the way forward, and all of our programs and activities are aimed at including your church members, not just your residents. And most of you know we are in a changing culture here. We are a multi-ethnic, multicultural church, and we celebrate the diversity of that, and he's just saying we need to celebrate that too within our village. Next, if we were to do a service project for the city this fall or winter, what possible projects are there? And he goes on, he says, I know you reached out with Glenn who's his project manager, and our recreational department, and you have already provided some community service over the last month, which we did with Labor of Love on Labor Day. He says, please continue to work with Glenn on any of our family and children events that we schedule throughout the year. There are many occasions when Glenn can use assistance in setting up and operating these events, and one thing he did ask me to mention today to you is this coming week, starting on Wednesday night, they have a circus at Kelly Park, you know, the old-style circus with the big tent, and that will be going up on Tuesday, and I believe it's Tuesday through Thursday, if I remember the dates of the circus, so he'd love us to be a part of that as well. He ends with saying, I hope that this will help you with your forum this Sunday. He says, once again, unfortunately, I will be out of town and unable to make it, but best regards to the congregation of Christian Hills Church. It also says, speaking to you as citizens and residents of Orland Hills, if ever you need assistance with anything or you have any questions, please feel free to email me at our email address or contact me through our website. So let's give Mayor Cow a round of applause for sharing that with us. Our other mayor is Mayor Dan McLaughlin, and he is the mayor of Orland Park. And so we went there, and he gave us the opportunity to come to his office and to interview him. So with that, we're going to play that video for you about that interview when we asked him these same questions. Hey, welcome Christian Hills. I am with Mayor Dan McLaughlin here from the city of Orland Park. And we're just excited to be able to be a part of being able to hear what his vision is for the city and the village here in Orland. And hey, what we can do as a church to help be a part of this great village. So Mayor Dan, thanks for being with us today. We're just excited about our new series Beyond Sunday, and we're just interviewing different mayors from the different villages to find out how we can help you better serve your community. So, right. So I guess my first question is, what is your goal or your vision for Orland Park? What do you see happening here?
Well, I could probably talk on that for an hour.
Sure,
but in short, obviously we want to make Orland Park the kind of desirable community that has the quality of life people want. Mm-hmm. Walkable places, safe community, passive and active recreational opportunities, and a caring community. Right. A community that can step in and help when people need help.
Sure.
So sure. I think in short that would be the kind of community we'd want to
Great.
see here.
Now I heard you had some initiatives you started to kind of help meet some of the needs of the community. Can you share some of those with us?
There's a lot of initiatives, a lot of committees we have that get the community involved, get people involved. We call them advisory boards in different areas. But one thing that's kind of new, unfortunate but new, is the idea of how do we address the heroin issue,
right,
and the overdoses and the potential tragedies that come from that for individuals as well as families and
right,
the community.
Sure.
So we started something about a year and a half ago called OPSAF. Well, actually, we named it OPSAF after meeting and kind of talking about things, but
sure,
Orland Park Substance Abuse Forum.
Okay.
We've got, we got together about 30 leaders in the community, people that deal with issues related to drug abuse and recovery and youth. So we had the superintendents of 4 or 5 school districts involved. We have first responders, police and fire. We have numerous agencies that are represented: Township Youth Service, the Bridge Teen Center, counseling services.
Right.
So we had 30 people together. It's an impressive group that started talking about what do we do to address this as a community. And we broke off into 3 committees. One committee is the website committee, and they developed a great website. Just went live about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And it's Orland Park Cares.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to look that up,
so then go check it out.
It's an opportunity for people to look for answers without having to go public.
Right.
We learned that a lot of people don't want to admit their kids have problems, or they themselves have problems and don't know where to turn.
Sure.
This is an opportunity for them to go and at least start looking for some answers. We have questions that are typically asked, but they're not just written answers. They're experts in the field giving an answer live. They're short videos that are answers to these questions, and then a huge resource guide for different types of resources available in the community or surrounding area. Because we also learned some people don't necessarily want to even go to a counselor in their own area.
Sure.
So
they want to kind of remain anonymous.
Yeah. So we want to do everything we could to make the resources and information available, and this OPSAF is running a couple different events and then put this website together, doing educational programs in the schools, educational programs for the parents of students. So it's going off in different directions, but a very impressive group and very dedicated, dedicated.
So it's a great resource for those that may need that resource there in the future.
Right.
Or know somebody that needs that resource. Well, as like a citizen or a resident of Orland Park, how can people within the church help you guys? What specific things could they do to volunteer or help out at different places? Well,
we do have, I started to mention the advisory boards and commissions we have. So we have a pretty extensive system of, it's kind of like backup for the village board. The trustees, myself, are part-time positions.
Right.
And then we've got staff that do their day-to-day operations. But these advisory boards and commissions are local citizens that volunteer to get involved in the government.
Right.
So we have Parking and Traffic Advisory Board, Planning Commission, Police Advisory Board. There's a youth board. There's numerous commissions and advisory boards. We appoint people to those.
Yep.
They only look at issues in that area.
Sure.
They'll spend all the time researching and doing the background and then give us advice. And then more often than not, we take their advice and act on it. So it's volunteering for those types of positions is always something that can be done.
Okay, great.
This is going to be a little out of the box because it's not a specific thing.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I wish there was a way of getting to people, and maybe it's through the churches, is kind of informing people that everything you see on Facebook is not the truth.
Listen to this. This is wisdom.
So the idea of educating people, that there's usually a lot more to something than
that you see on Facebook. Yeah.
But even understanding your taxes and how the government works, I mean, people don't spend the time to learn that.
Sure.
So does a church like yours put on a program where somebody like me can come and talk about how taxes are even levied and collected and how they're spent? And then the next time it's something about how police work. I mean, do you start doing a series of educational programs? Because the more educated people are, the more they understand why decisions are made the way they are, and the criticism is a little less.
Right.
And it's not that I'm trying to avoid criticism. What I'm trying to avoid is that one critic that gets everybody fired up without actually knowing the facts.
Right. Which is, distorted truths. Usually, you know, it's twisted this way, that way, and I think that's a great thing for everybody to know at Christian Hills, is you really do need to know what's happening in your city, find ways to get involved, because our encouragement is we really want you guys, as part of Christian Hills, to be involved in all of our villages around us where you live.
Right.
Anything else you'd like to say to Christian Hills Church?
Well, first of all, I applaud you guys for doing this. I think it's a great idea. You know that I started a long time ago. It was actually 2001.
Yeah.
Having a breakfast once or twice a year with the pastors of all.
It's been awesome.
I'm proud to say I'm the mayor of a town with 21 churches.
It's awesome.
So it's a great community, and getting the pastors together and just sharing notes and sharing information has been a great help to me, and I think
it's been a great help to us too. Like we used last time we met, you know. What was it, the chief of police, McCarthy?
Tim McCarthy.
Tim McCarthy. He gave that great thing on security, and we adopted a lot of the policies, pretty much all the policies in that book, and our security people instituted those, which is a great thing for like we don't have the resources to do that as a church, but man, to have someone professional do it was a great help and asset to us.
And they just produced a film, which I think is part of what you're talking about, for schools. Now, every church doesn't have a school, but if you have
we do have a school.
Yes, but some don't. But I mean, for anybody that's got a school, they put a video together on how schools should prepare and react and all that. And that video actually won awards, national awards.
Wow, awesome. So great.
So it's being used around the country.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you, Mayor Dan, for being a part of this and giving us some of your time.
Thanks.
So, all right, well, thanks, Christian Hills, and remember, go find a way to get involved in Orland Park.
Amen. He sent me just a letter here before he knew we were showing the video. He said, hey, Pastor Mike, please remind them about our website that's available. So he sent me a bunch of these cards. They are out on the information desk. It's opcares.net. And if you know of people that are struggling with addictions and they need help or counseling or anything like that, grab this card. It'll take you to the website. Because he does say a lot of people like to remain anonymous. I know I do counseling that way. I got a degree in chemical dependency counseling too. But we want to just challenge you that if you know of people, hey, refer them to that resource that is available to them. And make a big difference. And then, if I could say one more thing, I had to laugh when he said, don't believe everything you read on Facebook. Amen? You need to get the facts firsthand, because not everything on Facebook is true. Amen? So please note that as well. Well, it's my pleasure to be able to introduce to you Mayor Dave Seaman of Tinley Park. Let's give him a warm welcome as he's going to come up this morning. Amen. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you, Pastor Mike.
Have a seat there. We're so thankful that you came in person for us to be here today.
No, my pleasure.
You and I appreciate Mayor Dave. He comes to our ministerial meetings, and we get to chat and talk. And it's just really nice to get the updates about Tinley Park, what's happening, in Tinley Park, and get to hear your side of the story rather than all the Facebook stuff. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. So we're just so glad you're here with us today. So my first question that I kind of propose to you is, what can the church as a whole do to help serve the village of Tinley Park? So what are some things?
Well, I'm going to take kind of a broad, because some of these will touch the other questions. I think all of us have just gone through probably one of the biggest recessions that this country has ever experienced since the Depression, actually. And I think there's still a lot of people reeling from that. And so one of the things that we've noticed, properties in disrepair. We just tore down a building at 171st in Harlem, and there are 2 others in the pipeline that are supposed to come down by the end of this month, actually. frequently on 167th Street. I know it's occupied.
Right.
There's a car there, but it's
Falling
paint's
apart,
chipping. So, and there's an older car, so I assume it's an older couple or older person that lives there. And I think what we need to do is develop communications links, first of all, with those individuals, but then also with volunteer groups and churches, such as yours, that can perhaps assist and help those folks out of that problem. You want to be I think it goes to what you stated earlier today, just being a good neighbor.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it. And nobody wants to live next to a neighbor who doesn't care about their property, but in many ways, I think it's like health issues. Physicians struggle with patients that are having difficulty, and sometimes they're not seeing where the difficulties really are.
Sure.
Maybe it's their home environment, maybe it's not taking medications, maybe it's all sorts of underlying issues that basically kind of mask the problems that exist. And so I think perhaps in this way, if we can make those kinds of, we do some of this like with Tinley Wish.
Right.
Once a year over the Christmas holidays, we identify maybe 8 or 10 families of need, and it's usually triggered by a health or other situation. And so we help and go out and, buy them stuff, try to give them assistance in any way that's possible. Those have been good experiences, and I think the community likes to get engaged in that way, just helping their neighbor. And I think this could be a vehicle that we can take to the next level and start to really be helpful to people that need it.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what we did. We did our street, Oriole Avenue. And
Yeah.
I knew my neighbor across the street. He's pretty much on a walker and couldn't take care of his yard, so we did his house, which was the red house, and then down the street, there's a gray house, 3 houses down, we did his house, and then Donald shared how the one neighbor came and helped. But
That's
it was
great.
also interesting all week after doing that, and we helping these people out, how many neighbors came to me and said, this is great, because, it's the property all around you, and if everybody
Absolutely.
pitches in, and it was amazing how many neighbors helped us out in getting these places cleaned up as well. So, I think that'd be a great thing for us to be a
We'll
part
get that list together and get it going.
of. Awesome. Question 2, what are your goals and vision for Tinley Park as a village?
Well, we're part of the environment. Tinley Park is changing. As I mentioned earlier, the recession has had a major impact on the village. A lot of plans that were in place back in 2008 have basically been frozen in time. And so stuff hasn't happened, and I think people are anxious. Well, why aren't you doing something? Why aren't you doing something? Well, first of all, we avoided laying people off. That was the first good thing that Tinley Park was able to manage. But it meant that certain things didn't get done, to be able to keep staff and everything. Certain things didn't get done. But right now, we've got some downtown focus going on. We're trying to jumpstart some of the plans that had been in place for downtown Tinley Park. We're going to be expanding the plaza with the fountain that got knocked over.
Yeah, if you haven't heard, the fountain got knocked over.
One of our distinguished residents apparently
had too much to drink.
he overenjoyed our fine facilities on Oak Park Avenue and decided that he was going to try to mount the top of the fountain. And I guess maybe I could have done that, but at a 300-pounder level, it didn't work so good for him or the fountain. So that's a bit of a mess right now, but gives us an excuse to get that plaza project going, I guess, and a place to put the Christmas tree this year. But no, we plan to expand the plaza, get that rolling. We expect to have some concepts and things really brought to bring forward to the public, hopefully by December. There's also something called the Mental Health Center site.
Yeah.
We've got 280 acres of basically, I wish it were a green site, but it's got a lot of mess to clean up. The cost of cleanup on that site is somewhere around $16 million. So it's
a lot of contaminated soils and stuff like that, and the buildings are
asbestos laden. They're tunnels. So the demolition alone is about $6 million. With the abatement probably being another 6 to 10 million. And then, of course, the state wants $4 million for the ground. So there's been a master planning project underway that is looking for ways to repurpose that property. Whether or not the village buys it or not is kind of irrelevant. It's really more important to have the property develop the right way. So we've got a lot of citizen input going on that. One of the studies that may be contemplated is to what degree could a sportsplex be on that site. The sportsplex concept sounds very interesting. Problem is we're just not finding any that are financially standalone. They usually require subsidy from citizens, and that's kind of a tough sell to make these days when I think people feel that they're already overburdened with taxes. So what we might do is a hybrid and perhaps have a portion of the site dedicated to some sports, or there are adjacent properties that we could use as well. So we're clearly, I mean, we're kind of a sports town. We've got the Bulldogs and all the other private groups in addition to what's essentially a very good park district sports and recreation program. So we're hoping to build upon that and, keep it as part of that site.
Sure. Great. Okay. Anything else?
Well, we talked about downtown. We talked about the mental health property.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting things that I would like to see happen is what I call the Tinley Park 606, basically linking the two train stations so that once we get development out at that property, people can come into downtown, whether it be by walking, biking, or whatever, and start to utilize all that. We want to keep the center focus downtown.
Right.
We don't want to create a distraction or a second downtown on the mental health center site. So the focus has really got to be Oak Park Avenue. And so the 606 notion, we think, could very easily link, whether it's sports or whether it's residential focus, getting people into town. Kind of a hub and spoke approach, actually. We're also thinking of ways, how do we get, for instance, the convention center better linked to downtown?
Right.
Is it trolleys? Is it, what do you do? So all those things are in play right now, and we're really hoping to, once again, continue that downtown focus.
Great. Awesome. So as citizens of Tinley Park, what can the people who are citizens, I'm a citizen of Tinley Park, what can we do to assist the village in helping to achieve your goals and your vision that you've kind of shared with us in these?
Well, not unlike Mayor Dan said, engagement is always huge. And it doesn't have to necessarily be commissions, but it could be some of those neighborhood help projects. Getting the facts right is huge. Is huge.
Yeah.
And you'd have to live in a cave not to know that the village is engaged in some litigation right now over an affordable housing development that's been proposed. That development wasn't invited by the village to town. They found us, and not unlike most of us, we want a safe place to live, and just like everybody else does, and we talk about the diversification of the communities. It's a reality, but diversification isn't always just racial. Sometimes it's economic as well. So this 47-unit development is in court right now, and they're basically going to end up telling us what's going to happen or what's not going to happen.
So the judges will decide that. Yeah,
it will end up getting some kind of a court administered type of resolution, as well as hopefully the developer will come to some of the things that we want to see there, and likewise, we may have to compromise some things that we want as well. But hopefully, it ends up being a good asset to the community. As I've shared with the Ministerial Association, should this development occur, there are people within the community that have needs.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we can accommodate our residents, that could turn out to be a good thing for everybody.
Absolutely. And then like you said, I know people even on my block, they struggle with living just in their house and keeping it and maintaining it, where that place could provide an opportunity for them to go there.
Absolutely.
That's good. All right, question 4. What do you think the biggest need of the village is at this time? I mean, like Mayor Dan shared about the drug problem.
Sure.
So what do you think the biggest need of the village is?
Well, it's probably a broader need, and it touches the village, but I think it also touches all organizations are having problems right now, whether you're talking about organized religion or government, and that's this distrust, this fear, this, in some ways, I categorize it as kind of the scared and the scary. And there are two types of people that either are very concerned and nervous, or they're scary people.
Yeah.
And we've got both. And I think that, I think right now just having people get engaged in a constructive fashion. Engagement, you know, and you've talked about the Facebook stuff already, can be very destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, certain people would rather destroy than build. And that's not the way I've tried to live my life, and I don't think that's the Christian way to live your life. I think we should be builders. We shouldn't be destroyers. And so I think when there are problems, when there are issues, you raise them, you come up with solutions and answers. You just don't try to destroy everything that's in place.
That's good.
So I would like to hope that we can do more of that building.
Good, good. So question 5 is, how do you envision a greater sense of community in Tinley Park? How do you think we get there and do a better job at that? I mean, we do a good job, but I mean, is there any way we can help improve in that way?
Well, there's no doubt that I think, obviously, organizations like Christian Hills and the other churches, through the Ministerial Association, where you're talking to each other, that's just a huge piece in and of itself. We try to do that with other organizations. You know, our Veterans Commission is a bit of an amalgam of all the veterans organizations in town, just to facilitate the communication, so you're not tripping over each other, because sometimes you do the same thing, and if you do it on the same day, that's a shame, because you can't really fully enjoy. I think that the special events that we have in town, you know, could be better communicated, perhaps, so that people can enjoy those. We see things like the cruise nights, the Caribbean beach party, as ways for, especially because we have such really a short-lived summer season, a way to come out and enjoy each other and enjoy the community and enjoy your neighbors. You just can't do that easily, you know, when you get cloistered up for the winter months and you kind of cocoon.
Yeah, Tuesday nights, if you didn't know it, on Oak Park Avenue, they have all these classic cars every Tuesday night. You can go down there and check out the classic cars and fellowship and visit with people, and it's always a great event for me to go to check out the cars.
I agree. Unfortunately, it's our board meeting night, so my opportunities to get down there aren't as great as I'd like, but it's always good to get the old car out and have some fun.
Well, great. My next question is, what are ways that we can do service projects, even as individuals or as groups, this fall or winter? What are possible projects, or, you know, like Mayor Dan from Orland shared some of the different committees people can volunteer for?
Sure.
Are there things like that that people can get involved in Tinley Park?
We have about 16 different commissions and committees in town, so those kinds of opportunities are always available, and people that want to get involved, the way to get involved is basically just to send me a letter of interest, and, you know, we'll see where their profile fits. Yeah, you know, if you've got special skill sets in, you know, finance, maybe it's our Economic Development Commission.
Okay.
So it would just depend, you know, what somebody's interests are and how we can, you know, fit them with us. But I think that, you know, like I said earlier, some of these other projects that we've got, you know, clearly we can talk about the problem with people's houses, you know, that are deteriorating, but in some cases, and once again, it's just about being a good neighbor, it's somebody that needs their sidewalk shoveled. I mean, you know, it's people that aren't capable to let that stuff go. And of course, they're the first ones to probably slip and fall, so now you've got a bigger problem. So I think really it's just being good neighbors and
getting to know your neighbor and go see how you can help them out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. The pastor who kind of mentored me shared a story of one of the couples in his church really reached out to a person on their street that a lot of people kind of shied away from, you know, because he wasn't quite what you would say all there. And they reached out and really helped him, and through a process of time renovate his house, helped him get kind of, and he had some mental health issues, they said. But what was great is, over a period of 6 months, he kind of became part of the church and the family. They helped clean up his house. They even helped him. And he just got up, like on a Sunday, one Sunday, and in his own way just thanked the church and this family for just reaching out and helping him, because he really didn't know what to do, and he really did need help, and they were there to help him. So you can find, people in your own neighborhood that you can reach out and help in that way. So we do want to encourage you to do that. Any other thoughts you would like to share with us today that I didn't cover?
Well, I've truly been impressed by what this community congregation does. I mean, some of your efforts in Africa, the hospital and everything else is really amazing for a small congregation to be able to accomplish all that. So it just shows that how you don't have to be a big organization to do big things. You can be a small organization and do some very great things. And I congratulate you and your congregation for the great job you're doing.
Well, thank you. Well, let's give Mayor Dave Seaman a round of applause for coming out today.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Most appreciated.
So we just want to encourage you, find a way to get involved in your community. I mean, we kind of grabbed the three big villages around this. I know there are some of you that drive from other cities, but you need to maybe send your mayor an email, find out how you can get involved in your area of your city or village. And we just want to encourage you that, we really believe in the Good Samaritan principle, being a good neighbor and helping out our neighbors that are in need. So find a neighbor over these next few months, someone you can reach out to and mentor to. One of the other challenges that we've been throwing out there too as well is, find somebody